So you got these shiny new 2024 D&D books, and your DM is telling you to make a brand new character to play. Or maybe you got the old 2014 books and your DM just TPK'd your party, and you need to make a new character out of whatever remains of the old one. Whatever the case may be, you need to break out a new character sheet and get to scribbling. Or more likely, open up some program and start typing. But hold on, before we do that, let's ask some questions first. You want to have a great experience and get the most out of a character that we might be playing for months or even years. But what are some strange or unusual questions that you might not think to ask the DM or the rest of the table that can enhance your gaming experience? I'll try to stay away from Session Zero material. That's a different episode. Number 1, the battle map. This isn't just so you know whether to bring an adorable miniature of your future murder hobo to the party, but something else. What we really want to know is the size of the battle map. That's right, sometimes size does matter.
What?
Why do we care about how big of a battle map that's being used, you might ask? As I have learned, it can really change what can be considered powerful in the game. Spiritual Weapon is often considered a powerful and sought-after spell. Well, before it got nerfed anyway. And it's great on a smaller battle map. But Spiritual Weapon has a pretty slow speed, like 15 or 20 feet or something. A bigger battle map means that your Spiritual Weapon will waste rounds trying to get to the next enemy. Sure, the first casting will probably put it where it needs to be, and maybe the enemy is all bunched up, but after the initial engagement, you might spend the rest of the fight trying to get that spell to a place where it can do some good. I especially noticed this when I started playing Baldur's Gate 3, which can have some pretty big battle areas. Range combat can vary based on a battle map size as well. Range combat has always been seen as a pretty strong, and it often is. When my group upgraded to a bigger battle map, our ranger went from being pretty solid to killing everything in sight, especially if we could ambush them, because they would often waste a round trying to get to us. The opposite is true for melee-focused builds. Small battle maps mean you can run from enemy to enemy, slashing like Michael Myers, but larger ones have you wasting an entire turn just getting up to them, or maybe even longer than that. Number 2, Theater of the Mind. But maybe you're eschewing the battle map altogether. We would call this Theater of the Mind, and it can be important if this is what your DM is going to do while you're making a character. And it's not to save yourself the trouble of spending hours finding just the right mini to use in more hours or days, painting it to look just perfectly. Soon, you shall see the light of day, Sir Flufflenut. Theater of the Mind, for those that don't know, doesn't use any kind of battle map or graph paper or terrain like Dwarven Forge. It's just using descriptions by the DM to set the scene and the players narrating what they're doing using descriptive language. So why does it matter when you're making your character? Certain styles of play, certain character types function better when you have visual representations of your characters, the space they inhabit, and the obstacles in their path. And some characters don't care. A social character that wants to talk, intimidate, or seduce their way through problems and isn't going to give a hoot that they're 15 1-inch squares away from their target. But a tactical character who wants to use spells to control areas or maneuver themselves or allies or enemies is very much going to care that they can see and judge the positions on the battlefield. This isn't to say you can't run a tactical character in a Theater of Mind game. You can. I ran a druid over Zoom during the pandemic. It can be done. But discuss your expectations with your DM so it doesn't, eat into your fun. Number 3, dice rolling. Now, this one might be somewhat already established for veteran players, but maybe not. And I'm not talking whether or not you should be using your little click-clack gems, which of course you should be, unless you're using a digital roller or an all-in-one spinner dice or something. That's a different conversation. No, I'm talking about where you should roll your dice. This might seem trivial, but it matters more than you think. Are you rolling dice in a dice roller or a dice tray, dice tower? Or does your DM want you to roll in the center of the table for everyone to see and keep us all honest? These are questions to ask, and even if you have played for a while, maybe pose it anyway just to get everyone talking about it. Can't tell you how often we'll have half the party rolling in dice trays and the other rolling on the table, only for some rogue to roll a bunch of dice willy-nilly and send miniatures and terrain flying into the netherworld. Some dice discipline can really keep things running smoothly. Also, when making your character, consider how many dice you're going to need for that character. You want to make sure to always have at least 2 d20s for rolling with advantage and disadvantage. And I don't mean have them nestled in your adorable little dice bag. I mean, out and ready to go so you aren't wasting time digging around in your dice bag like you're looking for the last peanut M&M. It slows everything down. If you have a barbarian with a great axe, make sure you have at least 2 d12s for damage and a possible critical hit. A short sword wielding rogue, you want 4 d6s. 1 for the weapon, another for sneak attack, and 2 more for potential critical hits. But all of this can take up some space, which leads me to my next point. Number 4, table real estate. How much space are you going to have to work with at the table? Again, this might seem trivial, but I assure you it's not. The way you personally play and the type of character you're creating can affect how much physical space you are taking up at your table. And how much space is available might influence what type of character you decide to play, or at least how you're going to be keeping your character together. Allow me to explain. You may have a nice palatial custom gaming table where you have all the space in the world, like this beauty. What? But more likely, you're playing on a cramped card table squeezed together and becoming way too familiar with each other's body odor. And the amount of space you want to occupy can matter. If I'm playing that barbarian with a great axe, then I need a front and back piece of paper for my character sheet, a pencil with an eraser, and 4 dice. That's pretty much it. And it's going to stay like that for most of my career. On the other hand, if I'm playing like a druid or something, that might change. I'll need some room on my character sheet for spell lists, so that's another page. Maybe some spell cards, another stat block for my favorite creature to turn into, maybe even for summon creatures later on. And that will grow only more complex as I gain levels. I'm not saying that you shouldn't play that character, but the question on both sides should be asked, how much table space do you have, and how much is that character going to need? If the answer is too much, then that's okay. You just might need to start using a different medium to reduce your table footprint. Using D&D Beyond for digital data, or something like this. My partner uses this convenient little binder for her character sheet, spell cards, magic items, everything but her dice. Number 5, taking notes. Or don't. Nothing makes a DM feel more appreciative of their work than seeing their players take an interest in the finer details of the world they've created or the campaign that they're running. Whether it be from keeping track of different NPCs that they meet, or the lore of the kingdom or the locations, it can be very rewarding for the Dungeon Master. The reverse is also true. As a player, it's really cool when the DM or even other players take notes about your backstory and your ideals, especially when they play off what you've come up with. Very nice. But here's some questions to ask. Does the DM want one particular player to keep the notes for the group for simplicity's sake? It especially makes sense if it's character appropriate. For instance, my first ever 5th edition campaign, a friend played a particularly narcissistic bard who took all the notes. And then the DM, at the beginning of every session, would have that bard orate a summary of what happened in the previous session, which they would then give their own version of events that would twist all the happenings to make themselves look like the hero. Pretty damn funny. That's also something you can ask about. The note taker, or someone else giving a summary of the previous session, to refresh everyone's memory. It could also give the DM a good idea of what the players think happened in the last session, even if it's not necessarily true, that it's just what they believe or interpreted to be true, which could make the DM's future plans more interesting. Maybe the summary reveals that the party was more enamored than previously thought with that adorable little orphan child giving the DM diabolical ideas. But consider this, maybe the DM doesn't want anyone taking notes. Memory isn't perfect, and that can be true for in-game purposes. They might not want a record of every detail to be at the player's fingertips, and have to rely on their own brains to do the work for them. It can also be really funny how players misremember certain details like names. Who was that guy that gave us the quest? Saint Pervon. Sir Perseus. Well, there are a couple of unusual questions to ask at your table before finish making that character. What unusual questions have you broached at your table? And what were the answers? Tell me in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, smash that like button, check out our other videos around here, and we'll see you next time on Roleplay Culture.